Now, this chart shows how it goes from the highest to the lowest. The highest in the United States at almost $12,000 per person in federal taxes annually is our resident by resident live in the District of Columbia. The lowest per capita per person lives in the state of Mississippi. So imagine the rage. Nobody wants to pay taxes, but imagine the rage when you pay more taxes than anybody else and still don't have the vote on the House floor. Now, I haven't put all the states here because no chart could be seen, but you see it goes from $12,000 or almost $12,000 as the district pays down to as little as $4,000. The first 10 states, the top 10 states, end with California. Some of them you might recognize if you had to guess them. You know, second is Connecticut, third is New Jersey. 10th is California at about $8,000 per person. Compare that to our almost $12,000 per person. And understand this doesn't have to do with the size. It just has to do with the amount of taxes per person. So I indicated that Vermont and Wyoming were states where which we exceeded in population. Well, Wyoming residents pay something close to $8,000 per person compared to our $12,000 or almost $12,000. And Vermont, also a state with fewer people than the District of Columbia, pays about half, something over $6,000 compared to our almost $12,000 per person in taxes. Or just randomly pick out your state. Bear in mind we're comparing them with almost $12,000 per person in federal taxes paid to support the government of the United States. Nebraska, half of that, about $6,400. Or just take two others that are close to one another in the amount they pay, each about $6,000, Arizona and Indiana compared to our $12,000. Or Idaho. To support the federal government, Idaho has 2 senators and representatives in this Congress, pays $5,440. We're about 3 times or something over twice what they pay. And when you get to those who pay the least, let's take the bottom 2 states, Louisiana at $4,500, Mississippi at $4,200. You see, we're getting up to paying 3 times what these states pay. These states who have representatives, these states who have 2 senators. Of all the obligations, perhaps the most poignant is service in the armed forces. For the people I represent, there has been service in the armed forces ever since there's been a United States of America, and even before, when we were fighting in a revolution to create the United States of America. But that service has often been disproportionate to the number of residents. And if you go down the wars, the major wars of the 20th century, you get an idea of what I mean. World War I, 635 casualties, but that was more than 3 states. World War II, now we're getting to more than 4 states in casualties. By the time we got to the Korean War, we were talking more than that the district had more casualties than 8 states. So we've gone from 3 to 4 to Korea to 8 and finally to Vietnam. More than 10 more casualties than 10 states. Yet the district has sometimes had to fight to get respect, equal respect for the members of its armed forces. A mother wrote me when she went to the graduation of her son recently from boot camp at Naval Station Great Lakes. The family was there glowing with honor and pride in a son who had passed up going to college in order to serve in the United States Navy. So passionate was this kid about service. When each graduate stepped forward, the flag, the state was raised. When Seaman Jonathan Rucker stepped forward, no state flag was raised. That, my friends, was the last straw. I was immediately in touch with the White House, with the Armed Services Committee, particularly after veterans in the District of Columbia came with particularly heartbreaking stories. For example, among the most serious were some veterans who spoke of no D.C. flag being displayed at welcome home ceremonies, even though the flags of other states were raised. I don't think anybody meant any disrespect to our residents who served in the armed forces. I just believe that when you when you pay taxes without representation, when you don't have anybody in the Senate who can take care of you, when you have only a non-voting representative in the House who votes in committee but not on this floor, it is easy to be disregarded in other ways. I am very grateful to Senator Levin and the Senate Armed Services Committee and to this House and its Armed Services Committee for rectifying this serious slight to our residents, the ones who've given the most to their country. Mr. Speaker, I read an honor roll picking out simply a few of the very distinguished Washingtonians who have served in the armed forces, because some of them stand out with great particularity.